Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Boys for Adventure. Yes! We made it! I've been waiting a long time to do this. I've been stuck in quarantine too long. It's time to get out and do things. I am going to be working on my 2007 FJ Cruiser. What are we going to do? I'm glad you asked. Let's find out. And this is the 2007 FJ Cruiser. She's got 160,000 miles on her. I just did an oil change. And there is a gun range not too far from my house. You might hear some gunshots in the background. It's just where I live. So I think the first thing I'm gonna do is go through a list of items that I have added onto her, and then we'll go over the list of items that we're going to be installing. I have installed an aftermarket Alpine deck with a backup camera. I installed these aftermarket shift knobs. I installed these aftermarket knobs here. I installed this fire extinguisher mount. I installed this bolt-in phone mount that works really well. I installed these rock rails. I installed this rear molly plate and everything that's on it. I also installed this button so you can get in and out of the FJ from the inside. I installed this backup camera, and she came with these 285/70/17s. This is the 3-inch lift kit that we're going to be installing on the FJ. This is the first thing that we're going to be doing. And the reason we're doing that is because when I bought this vehicle, it had these 285s. If you own an FJ, you know that you can't just run the 285s on the FJ without doing some sort of modification. So whoever owned it before me did the modification of adding a 1.5-inch spacer on the front to make it fit. Well, it doesn't really work because they're still rubbing. Also, while we're doing this, I might as well install my US off-road hidden winch bumper system that's going to go on the front of the FJ. This thing is really cool. Then we're going to put this Rough Country 9500 S winch. Just the Rough Country, it's a winch hook. I thought it was cool. It'll look nice when it's all done on the front of the FJ. In the future, I'll be putting on this. This is an ARB, the flat roof rack. And then, to put this, I got an Ironman 2-person rooftop tent that's really nice, and I got the annex. We're also installing some new upper control arms. I did some research. I found that if you do anything above a 2 to 2.5-inch lift on the FJ Cruiser, you really should look into upgrading your upper control arms. Yeah, these are Total Chaos Fabrication upper control arms. When I get everything sorted, we will go through the process of getting everything prepped. It takes a little bit of prep work. It's really nice because they include everything. They include the super lube and everything, which I didn't know because I bought some just for that. But anyways, doesn't matter. We will put that together. Okay, now let's go over tools that we are going to be using. We'll be using that jack. We will be using 4 of these beefy 4-ton jack stands. And we will be using a ton of wrenches and other various tools. Okay, so that's kind of what we're gonna do. So right now, first thing we're gonna do is get this vehicle up on the jack stands. So the vehicle is on the jack stands. A couple of things to keep in mind. One, you want to chock the wheels and put on the e-brake when you lift the front end, just to make sure it doesn't roll. 2, you want to make sure you have enough clearance. Luckily I do, but I did not look. All right, there we go. The vehicle is on jack stand. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the bumper and this grill up top. Okay, quick note, when you want to take this off, the only thing you got to do is remove the brackets from each end here. You take out this screw and this screw. And then you want to lift these up, just like so. And then you're going to have this clip here pop out. I already popped it out, but you have this clip here popped out. And then you have a clip here. You have one down there in the middle. You just give it a pull. Like I said, I just pulled it off, but I thought I'd share it with you. And there you go. It's off. All right, so as you can see, it's a new beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest. This is where we're at right now, so I'll just go over what I've done. I took the bumper off. There's 10mm bolts that run across the bottom, and then there's 2 on each side on the side. Oh, sorry, on the side here and here. God, it's dark in here. Sorry, and I don't have any of my spotlights on. And then I removed the bumper and this top plate, this kind of the engine support beam. I'll show you where they were. So of course the plastic bumper was across the bottom, and then I took these 8 bolts off. There's actually only 7 because this one was completely sealed on there. I could not get it to turn. I used impact, I put heat on it, everything. I ended up having to cut it off. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna go and replace it. That support bracket went here, and it's 3 10mm bolts that hold it on. It's this one, and this one here, and then it kind of slips out from underneath. I'm sorry, it slips out from underneath this clip here, and then it comes off. I'm going to have to reroute this AC line. This line will have to be rerouted to the top. And yes, in case anybody does notice, this thing is bent badly on the bottom. It's really warped. It looks like it's leaking, but I haven't seen any leaks, and my AC seems to be working just fine. I haven't had any problems. It's been like this for over a year now. I am going to replace that. Anyways, that's what I've done so far. The next thing that I'm going to do is start working on getting the upper control arm removed, and I'm gonna get some lights and everything so you guys can actually see what the heck's going on. So the stock upper control arm, there's a ball joint up in here in this, and if that goes out on this stock one, you have to replace the entire upper control arm. In an upgraded upper control arms, the ones I got from Total Chaos Fabrication, they have, you can replace that. So when that ball joint goes out, you can just replace the ball joint. Another thing that's good to invest in are these magnetic pans. I love these things. They're absolutely great. You could just keep things in there like your tools and stuff. And it's magnetic. It's a pretty strong magnet. That just wasn't in there very well. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. You want to be careful what you put it up against because these things are actually pretty strong magnets. What I'm doing right now is I'm just gonna start disassembling the upper control arms. First thing I'm gonna do is take off this 10mm bolt that holds this bracket on. That brake line's good to go. Now I'll have to check the instructions just to double check, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be removing this bracket altogether. All right, next I'm going to pull out this cotter pin. Another thing I'm gonna have to do is take these out so I can get easier access to these things. So these things are great for taking any plastic clips that clip things on, but you just slide it up under here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this castle nut off, and we're going to separate the linkage here and disconnect the UCA from here. But it's going to kind of pop up, which is fine, but I want this to kind of be in place. I don't want this to drop down too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bungee it up. I'm just going to hook a bungee there. I'm going to wrap it around here a couple times and hook it down in here. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so now that I've got that upper bolt loose that connects the upper control arm up here, and I've got this disconnected, I'm gonna pull this off. You're just gonna unbolt it right here. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be loosening this bolt right here, the one that goes all the way across to the other side of the upper control arm. And in order to take that off, I'm gonna have to remove this bolt right here that holds this bracket on. It's a 12mm bolt. this bolt mounts this brake line bracket to the frame, and on the end of it, if you see that elbow, it's a little pin that goes down into the frame. So once you unbolt it, you got to lift this up to see it's in that hole right now, and so you can't move it, and it's because you got to lift it up, move it out of that hole. I'm going to take this one off and loosen this brake line. All right, so it needed some lube love, but I got this bracket off, and now this brake line has a lot more play in it, so I feel more comfortable. We got to slide this bolt out this way behind this frame. As you can see, this battery cable and this clip are right in line with that. So what I got to do is pop this clip out, which is super easy. We'll do that real fast. Finally got the bolt out. I did have to take the battery and the little plastic battery tray out. I don't know how it is on any other models of FJ Cruiser, but on the 2007, there's a little plastic battery tray. So now we've got the upper control arm completely removed. With my set, I will be reusing this bolt. So we want to hold on to this, but we're going to get all this taken out. Upper control arm removed. So this is the Total Chaos Fabrication upgraded upper control arm. Okay, once I got all those 14mm bolts off, I just loosened this one. I had greased it earlier. I'm gonna need to hold on to this because I think I need these bolts. I need this bolt nut, so I'm gonna keep this all together. I am going to disconnect my sway bar. Got the coilover spring and the strut and everything all out. What I did was I went ahead and moved this over here to make sure that my brake lines don't have any tension on them at all, because this is hanging over. So I just to get it out of the way, I disconnected it from over here, brought it over here, and now there we go. We have no upper control arm, and our whole coil over here is out. So now the next thing I'm going to do is the same thing on the other side. And this is just a quick comparison of the spring that I took out and the spring that I'm putting in. So obviously you got your upper control arms, you got your bushings, and actually I use my hands, I just kind of press down on it. You press these guys in. You don't want to grease them, you just want to press them in dry. And then once you get them pressed in, you can they give you this grease. So you just want to grease the insides, just the inside rim. There's these little grooves you kind of want to fill. And everything that I'm saying is straight from the instructions. Put in these small Zerk fittings. These things are tapered, so they only have to be snug. They're not load bearing or anything. There's not, they shouldn't have a ton of pressure on them or anything. So I'm just gonna go ahead, and it can be kind of a pain. And they even say in the instructions that if the powder coating gets to be too big, you want to get a tap, and you want to tap these out. It doesn't sink all the way down, and they say in the instructions, do not even try to sink it all the way down. You're just going to snap this thing off. So you just want to get it to where it's down, and then when it's installed, you can access it. You can grease your fittings, because that's one of the first things you're going to do when we get this all on the ground. Is, well, one of the last things we do is we're going to grease these. Once you get those guys in, we're gonna take these tube steel, these go inside the bushings, and we're gonna grease the outsides of these bad boys. So I'm gonna take my grease brush. Okay, so I got the coilover in, and I had a brake line assembly connected to this link here, or this thing. So now I can move this down and get the bottom of this in, because right now, I mean, it's kind of close, but not really. Okay, and there you have it. It is in, and it was a pain. All right, so I've got the upper control arm. I've got these two bushings on this side. I'm gonna do my best to, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take this one and put it on the bolt. Just sit there. And I'm gonna get this one up in place. I'm not gonna worry about the other two bushings. All right, and there it is, all hooked up. So I have this all bolted in. I've got this bolted in, upper control arm bolted in, but loose. According to the instructions, you want to keep it loose until you grease it, and the grease starts to actually come out of the ends, and then you tighten it down. I'm gonna reconnect my sway bar end links that connect into here, and I'm gonna reconnect all my brake lines. But you guys don't need to see that. Okay, there she sits on wheels. I got everything torqued down to spec, lowered it down. There's just the two bolts that are on the bottoms of the front shocks that I need to tighten down. I was so focused on getting this lift started to make sure it was done in time, because I was on such a time constraint. The one thing I forgot to do is measure a before. So unfortunately, I don't have anything to compare it to. Okay, so now we're gonna take out the alternator, which is this guy right here. I got you all zoomed in so you can kind of see what I'm doing. There is a bracket that's behind this right here. That bracket right there, I've got to remove it. That's a 10 millimeter. I got to get my other socket. And then once we do that, I'm gonna take the power cable off that's right there. So let me get that real quick. Okay, so this is the new 130 amp alternator. It's an aftermarket, but it's made by Denso, who is the manufacturer for the original alternator, the OEM one. The clip I was just messing with is right here, but there's actually a button on the inside towards the cab of the vehicle. If you push on that, give it a nice good push, you should feel that button push in. Once you push that button in, you can pinch it and pull it off, and it comes off relatively easily. Okay, so I've got the alternator out. That's the old alternator, that's the new one. I'll tell you what, for 160,000 miles, and I'm not replacing this because it's failing. In fact, I'm gonna hold on to this just in case I have issues with this one. I'm impressed, I tell you what. Good job, Toyota, good job. When you are putting in this alternator, there's this bolt here, and it kind of squeezes as you tighten it up. It squeezes itself in, it cinches itself tight onto the bracket that you put it on, which is that right down in there. Can't get the camera down, that thing. So it'll squeeze onto that. So to get it off, I just took, I mean, you could probably just take a screwdriver. It doesn't take a lot, but I had this pry bar already available. It was just sitting on the ground from the suspension install. And I pried on the top away, just between the, you know, the engine block and the thing. I just kind of pried it a little bit and wiggled it and pried it and wiggled it. You know, probably spent 20 seconds doing that, and then it just came right out. So when you're taking out your alternator, if it feels stuck, it's not. Just work on it a little bit on the top, and then as you work it down, it'll work this out. It is installed. Just basically put the screws back in. Real quick, when you do get this belt kind of back on, kind of trace around over here on this side of the belt. It was actually just a tiny bit off. It was on the kind of the edge of the pulley, and I pushed it and it snapped back on real quick. Just kind of check your belt before you go starting it up. Just make sure it's all 100. All right, guys, so here we are. We've got our front suspension done. We've got the lift. It's sitting on the wheels right now. She's taller. This is gonna be it for this video. They started to get a little long. In the next video, we're going to finish the suspension, and I'm going to install the bumper and the winch, and yeah, we'll go from there. Stay tuned. We will get more and more mods put on this thing, and then we'll take her out for a spin. All right, see you next time.